On Zero Block 30, I'm privileged to have the first woman to ever step foot in the octagon in the UFC, Liz Carmouche. Liz, I've been watching you fight for years. And I remember when you stepped in the ring first with Ronda Rousey, I was like, she's going to get her. I know she is. This Marine is going to do it. And I just watched the fight again, just to refresh my memory. You were probably half an inch, maybe an inch away from really sinking in that rear naked choke, and it would have been curtains. You connect with that choke. Do you think it changes the course of UFC and women in the UFC?
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. For so many different reasons, I just think that she was really good at publicity. Her relationship with Dana White helped accelerate just opening up the divisions and broadcasting women into mainstream media. And I don't know that I could have, not to say that she sold herself, but saw myself in that way. I could have done the same thing with media and done it as well as she did. I was certainly articulate and I did a really good job for what I did, but to lead that way, I don't think I would have been ready at that time.
And I looking back at your story, it's really remarkable because you joining in 2004 and then starting the fight game shortly thereafter, not too much long after, but to only be in a gym training to fight UFC style, mixed martial arts style, and going pro in 4 months is legitimately fucking insane. When your coaches brought up to you like, hey, we got to fight, even though you've been doing 4 months, were you so naive in the fight game that you didn't really know what you're getting yourself into, but had that Marine spirit about you?
That's exactly how I would describe it, actually. Yeah. What kept happening is we were trying to book amateur fights because I was trying to, when I walked into the gym, I said like, hey, I realize I have no experience. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to start fresh. I have no anticipation or expectation that I'll be fighting in a few months. I know this takes years to go amateur and then years from there to go pro if I'm ever even privileged to do so. I just want to give it everything I have and see where that goes. But I was in there 6 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, and then doing workouts on Sunday. So I was committed to it, going Marine Corps style. And my hard-headedness, my coach was like, hey, you know what? We can't get you amateur fights. Everybody's turning you down. He's like, let's just go pro. Why not get paid? You're getting hit in the face. You're taking the risk anyway. Why not just get paid to do it? Yeah. Why not get paid to do it? That makes sense. Yeah.
It's just so insane that my older daughter, she just turned 16 yesterday. She started doing jiu-jitsu when she was probably 10-ish. And I wanted her to get involved in some, like, even just white belt tournaments, some yellow belt tournaments if she got there. I wanted her to go, and they're like, oh, she's not going to do any type of tournaments for at least 6 months. And turn that around, and you're fighting professionally in 4 months. Going back, would you do it the same exact way, or would you take some time to, like, sharpen up your skills?
I go back and forth at this. At that time in that era, I feel like it was the right call. Just the amateur circuit, the experience and the training that the women get now to be able to have 9, 11 fights, 7 fights before they go pro, to get the experience as an amateur, that wasn't available for women at that time. For me to get that many fights under my belt to try and go into a professional career, it wasn't really available. So I had to make those mistakes as a professional before I could do it and hurt my record. So would I do it differently for that time? No. The biggest difference is I would have told my command to go screw themselves, and I really would have committed to finding a good gym and training before that, so that I could have maybe had that amateur experience before my real breakout happened in 2010.
And can you talk a little, because the Marine Corps now acts like they fully embrace combat sports. They want people involved in doing it. But then I was friends with George Lockhart, who you might know, that was on The Ultimate Fighter when it first came out. And we went to sergeant's course together. And he was talking about how he had so much problems with his command getting permission to fight, because they want you have 3 deployments to Iraq under your belt. They want you to be able to go on those deployments. And it's really kind of a strange thought that they don't want you to train to fight, even though that's what you're going to do, is going to fight. Did you have that same type of, stance from your command, that they didn't want you doing any of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I had it on twofold. I had it because I was a woman and the combat MOSs weren't open up yet. Don't ask, don't tell was still invoked. And then the second thing with that is I was an electrician. Like, we spent a lot of money on you in school. We can't risk you getting hurt. So absolutely not. And I'd heard some of the people I worked with were kind of pushing me into training MMA, not necessarily competing and fighting, but just training it. They're like, look, you're that crazy Marine that wants to have the highest PFT all the time, and you're always finding new ways to challenge yourself. Why don't you check out MMA? And as I started looking into it, I'm like, yeah, I want to try this out. So I was looking for a place where my command is like, no. So I was going to like an underground. Now I look back, I'm like, that was not a real gym. I was training at a super sketchy place. It's so embarrassing. Because I'm sparring against heavyweight guys. I mean, guys are like 256 punching me in the face. Jesus. And I was like a black eye and stuff. They're like, what happened? I'm like, I was drunk and I slipped in the pool. They're like, yeah, that seems real. I'm like, what?
See, it's so insane that you're doing something to better yourself career-wise, and you have to lie. So now you get alcohol cessation class. Like, Liz has got a fucking problem over here. She needs to go chill out a little bit. Was your first introduction to any types of mixed martial arts, did that come through the Marine Corps, or did you do that some as a child as well?
I did do different forms of karate as a child, but my attention span wasn't there. I wish it had, because I grew up in Okinawa of all places. Like, you want to talk about having an opportunity to try out. Like, when people think karate, like that's the starting point of it. But my ADHD self was like, no, today I want to do soccer. No, today I want to do football.
Yeah.
So I didn't commit to any of them, and just my attention span wasn't there. So it wasn't really until the Marine Corps, until I started getting into it. And it was BJ Penn's book. It was me reading the workouts, looking at the different stuff, reading wrestling books and jiu-jitsu books to try and figure out how to do the technique, and failing tremendously at it.
And I don't think people realize how influential BJ Penn has been to the MMA field itself. Like, coming in, being a prodigy at such a young age, teaching and loving to teach. You also do some of that teaching. Do you find yourself ever slipping back into Marine Liz mode when you're teaching some certain ways to do it? Like, I know what a broken leg looks like. That is not fucking broken. Get up. We train till we die.
I wish I could say no, but it's so true. I felt like, especially when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I was first teaching kids. That was my first job out of the Marine Corps. Bill Crawford at San Diego Combat Academy gave me a job teaching the kids MMA. And I went full on drill instructor mode with them. Like, oh, okay, you guys want to down? Then everybody suffers. Push-ups. Okay, cool. Burpees. Right, hold this sit. So it was so, like, when I look back, I'm like, those poor children. I mean, they're all tough, and some of them are competing and they're badasses now, but man, I'm so sorry. And then the parents too, like, I'll get in that mode with adults now, where I'm like, why are you whining? All I asked you to do is 60 split lunges. I don't know what you're crying about. It could definitely be worse. He could kick you and then he could do it. So yeah, I definitely fall into that military and have to like dial it back and be like, okay, the drill instructor Liz needs to go to sleep and calm down.
But it's impossible really for the first little bit, especially when you first get out, to do that. You have one speed and it's absolutely full speed. I watched an interview that you did in 2014 with Fightland, and you were talking about how sometimes it's a struggle for someone like you who can be bigger and stronger for your weight class of getting somebody to fight you, even if the person's very skilled in jiu-jitsu and might have a shot at like tapping you out, doing a leg lock, doing something. You said, sometimes I don't care if I lose. I just want to hurt the other person, and they might end up in the hospital. So they might not come. They might not want to fight me because of that reason. I was like, she's a fucking maniac. Do you look back and you still have that approach? Or are you, now that you're 11, 12 years into this, you have a more seasoned approach of how you're going up against your fight that takes place on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I'd say it comes more in training than anything. And I certainly have a different approach when it comes into fights and being able to see it differently. But in training is when it hurt me the most, just because I'm like, yeah, he said that we have 20 seconds to complete. Let's go. Let's go 100 burpees as fast as you can. Like racing, like, why are you guys all tired? Like, let's keep going. Let's go. Why are you stopping? Everybody should have the same sense of urgency. And I would just watch his training partners would just kill their will and they would just fall to the wayside. And I'm like, why don't I have any more training partners? I don't understand. This is so weird. So that perspective started to change everything for me and understanding like, okay, I need to do some workouts. Like, it also helped that same person, Bill Crawford, he started doing my strength and conditioning separately from the guys, because we would start doing heavy days and I would max them out and keep going. He's like, all right, we're done. I'm like, but I can keep going. He's like, we're done for the day. and then started privately training me because it was breaking the will of other people. So I think I started to understand, like, there are certain workouts I need to do on my own because I can't do with friends and family. I can't do with training partners and think that I can keep them. And then wanting to push as hard as I could, and seeing longevity wise too, is other training partners that I started out with, that they had the same will as I did, and training the same way, going balls to the wall, breaking each other every chance that they had. They didn't last in the sport. And between seeing it relative to in the gym was just like hurting the will of the people around me and them not wanting to keep up, and then watching the people that had that same desire die off eventually, it put things in perspective. We're like, okay, I need to do things a little bit differently because those people aren't lasting all around me, and I'm the only one that's keeping up with this. So I've got to change something to keep my training partners and not break my toys.
And how do you get your toys? I love that. How do you get to this spot where, watching a lot of your fights, your cardio is always fantastic? How do you get to a place where you know you're in a good spot cardio wise, but where you have the will and the desire to keep pushing that further and further and further, where you have guys like Magomedov who just feels like they never, ever get tired? Where does that inner desire come from? And do you feel like the Marine Corps helped really push that and really sharpen that attitude that you have?
Yeah, I think that the Marine Corps helped me be able to find that self-discipline to achieve those things on my own. I mean, like, for example, as I was on the assault treadmill the other day, and I hate running.
Me too. Thank God you said that, because if you like running, we can't be friends. I have a promise to all of our Zero Block 30s listeners that I will never run again. That's a promise that I've made to them, and I intend on keeping it.
Yeah, I hated running before the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps didn't help it. All it did was guarantee that I ran twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm not a runner, but on the assault treadmill, but seeing the numbers, I'm like looking and I'm like, I wonder how fast I can get that. Can I get that up to 26? Can I get that up to 28? And they're like, no, I wasn't dead at the end of that one. I can get it to go faster. And that's always what it is. I just find myself where I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm not that tired. I could probably push a little bit harder, or cool. Like I do, it's called in the pool burner rounds. Mm-hmm. So it's underwater fitness, and you do it with weights and everything. And so you're for anywhere from 10 to 16 feet deep in the pool. So it's really you against yourself. If you gash yourself out, you still got to travel back up that 10 to 16 feet to get air. Right. And so there's always that element of like, I could potentially die.
You need to do an ORM report on that. That does not sound safe to me at all.
Don't worry, it's up the ones are there too. It's totally fine. And so it's finding things like that. So I was trying to push myself and do other things that make me uncomfortable. Like, hey, I really don't think I'd be good at this. Cool. Then I need to be good at this. There's just something in the back of me that's always driving me to be the best version of myself. And the Marine Corps just helped figure out how to tie into that better.
And your fight on Friday that you have, that's coming up on Friday on Showtime, what are you looking to do early? Are you looking to just dominate again? Because you seem like you don't like to do first round knockouts. You seem like you want people to be in pain for a little bit.
There's a part of me that's like, I want to chip away. I don't know that there's this twisted part of me that gets hit with their hardest punch and look at them and go, yeah, it didn't do anything. What else do you have? And then just emotionally break them down. Okay, I'll be like, now I'm going to hit you with 80%. Now I'm going to hit you with 90%. But I'm not even going to have to take it to 100 because I already broke your will the first round when you gave me everything you have, and then it stopped me. So there is that sick, twisted part of me, but I also want to go in there and I just want to dominate her. I just want to show her, like, you're not going to get anything off from beginning to end. And I want to finish her hard, and I want to make a big statement with Conor on Friday.
And when you have these type of fights, there's certain, like watching Conor McGregor's last fight where his lead leg was just absolutely wrecked. How do you train for something like that, where you're getting kicked in the calf, where you're doing, like, for Marine Corps martial arts purposes, body hardening? How do you get to the spot where you're training? Because so many more fighters are doing that. How do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, it was just funny. Just the other day, I was training with my partner, Enrique, and when I find a spot where I punch you or I kick you, if I see like a little bit of weakness, I hit the exact same spot. And so I was just drilling in. He finally was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And all the coaches are like, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? And he's like, no, nobody in a fight is going to kick me that often over and over the same exact spot and punch me in the same exact spot in the liver and just keep dropping it over and over and over. I'm like, you don't know that. You get your back against the wall, that could happen. And it's just that sick part of me where I like watches, they're hitting the same spot too. Like we're doing a drill. and they're hitting me, and it's like, yeah, it hurts, but I see you breaking before I do. And I think for me, that's always that driving point is like, okay, I'm going to wait till you break. I'm not going to bitch out. You break before I break.
And that's such a twisted Marine Corps leadership thing too. Like I always tell people, I hated running, but if I was your staff NCO and I saw you running and you look like you were in pain, I could go all day. I hated it, but any look of pain on your face is such an unbelievable satisfaction to me. And it's nice to see that it finally transfers over to a civilian job. Finally. And we have been doing this podcast for 5 fucking years, and we finally found the transfer.
There you go. That personal training, like teaching a client and watching the will, that's what it is when you watch them suffer.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Liz. Good luck in your fight. We'll hope to have you back again. And if I ever come out to San Diego area, I would love to learn some stuff from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Please come through. I'm at San Diego Combat Academy. You're more than welcome.
There we go. All right. Thanks, Liz.